there, fellow nerds, cinema fanatics. Welcome back to the Hot Nerd Network, your ultimate destination for all things nerdy. I'm your host, Cheryl Parker, and if you are passionate about movies and TV as we are, hit that subscribe button below and join our ever-growing community of hot nerds, where every view, like, and comment fuels our love for all things nerdy. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when we drop something new, some new content. And if you enjoyed the movie recap today, don't forget to smash that like button and let us know what you think in the comments. So today we've got a cinematic adventure you won't want to miss, where we dive deep into the world of justice, action, and Denzel Washington's iconic character, Robert McCall. Yes, we're stepping into the pulse-pounding world of Equalizer 3. There will be spoilers, so big warning. So spoilers will be discussed. So if you have not seen the movie, I recommend you watch our Equalizer 1 and 2 recap before you go, and then return to view this recap and share your thoughts once you have seen E3. Joining me today are two of Denzel Washington's biggest fans, Carlos and Reggie Brown. Thanks for joining me today, Carlos and Reggie, and as well as my beautiful niece, Donna Lyles Reyes. So, Carlos and Reggie, after talking to Donna about the movie, she expressed that she did not like it as much as me. So, I thought it would be good to get her perspective for the audience. I think she liked it, but she didn't like it as much as I did. We can also change her mind on how she received it. And, we've got to turn her back into the number one Denzel Washington fan. So, okay. So, I wanted to get started with initial impressions. So, what were your first thoughts and feelings about the movie? And I'm going to start with Reggie.
I would say I'm excited as always. I mean, anytime
Mhm,
Denzel drops anything, I'm always excited. I'm first in the theater to see it, so I was interested to see how it would compare to the first two,
mhm.
knowing that the hype building up around was supposed it's going to be the last one. So, but yeah, I mean, I liked it. Ultimately, I liked it. I'd like to hear what everyone else think too. I don't want to go too deep just yet.
Okay, okay, I love it. I love it. Okay, what about you, Carlos?
Well, I'm similar to Reggie. We just been Denzel fans since the beginning, so
Mhm,
it's almost like anything he puts out, we're gonna love anyway.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but I was actually curious to see if they would actually, we were talking last time, like is what's gonna happen? Like what's gonna be the result, or actually we're gonna see something similar to part one and two, and
mhm,
really, I think that's what I wanted to see. I didn't want to see Robert McCall die, so I kind of
Mm.
got what I asked for.
mhm,
And my initial impression was it was really similar. The flow was the same. The cinematography and the script and all of that was fairly similar, but it's got a few different nuances that I'm sure we'll touch on today.
absolutely. Okay, Donna, over to you. What were your initial impressions?
So my initial impression, like when I saw the previews, I was super excited.
Mhm.
Because of course I am a Denzel Washington fan. So I was expecting to be like the Denzel Washington of the Equalizers, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm,
then I was all excited. I went to Elias and I was like, "Look, I want to go see that movie." I'm tagging him and everything and posting stuff. So then we get to the movie and I'm just sitting here like, "Yes, Denzel Washington. Yes, yes, yes." So to be there and sit there and just kind of watch, like I think the first two were a little bit more action for me. So I was expecting to see that in this one. And I
okay.
was hoping and praying that he wouldn't, they wouldn't kill him off. I was like, no, they have to do another one because I'm so excited about this one. And Denzel Washington to me is very passionate in, when he's doing his movies. So I thought, okay, Equalizer is going to be great, but I just felt like it needed something else. There needed
Mhm.
to be a little bit more. Like he was stuck in this beautiful town and I knew something was going to happen, but I'm just like, okay, I wanted more. I really
I get
wanted
it.
more.
We all want more. We all want more of Denzel always. Okay, so I myself, I liked it. Of course, I mean, I've loved Denzel for so long, so I love this movie. I love The Equalizer. As Carlos and I said, in the recap of 1 and 2, I really just enjoy how they just increase the flow of the him helping people and just giving back, with his talents. So I just was excited to see what's he going to do? Who is he going to help?
Yeah.
So, it was interesting because I couldn't really tell that in the very beginning. But again, we learn that later, how it all started. So we'll get into that. Okay, so now let's get into the biggest thing, which were the action scenes, because I felt like that opening scene. Oh my gosh, that opening scene was amazing to me, just kind of watching them walk through and all of that carnage, and then just getting to the point. It like took forever for us to see finally get to him. I'm like, well, he had to have done all of this. But what were your thoughts, Donna, since you said you wanted like a lot of action? What were your thoughts from that scene, from that very initial scene when it first starts?
I thought the first initial scene was great,
Hmm.
and that's why I was expecting more.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so if it's going to start off like this, then it's going to be like I'm going to be sitting here like holding on to my seat, like, oh, I'm just waiting for more and more and more. And then it was just like, okay, so we got to that part, and now we're kind of relaxed. Okay, so what's going to happen next? And it was
Okay.
just every time I'm waiting for what's going to happen next, what's coming.
Okay. So with Carlos and Reggie, okay, we'll start with Reggie. So what were your thoughts of that first scene?
I mean, my thoughts for the first thing ultimately was chills. Ultimately, as they went down the path and they went, you saw body by body by body. I was like, oh my, this is Denzel at his greatest, right? Um, and the cool part about all of that is you didn't see him do any of that. You just knew.
No.
You just knew he cleaned the shop, and the anticipation of when what is he going to be doing when you see him. So that
Yes.
opening scene was amazing to me. I was almost doing a standing ovation already in the theater. I didn't want to
Yes.
kick me out though.
That was me too. I totally agree. Totally agree. So what are your thoughts, Carlos?
Reggie's a real fan, huh? I don't think I've ever stood up in a movie and clapped my hands, but even thought about it. However, no, I think it was really cool because it's unexpected, right? We don't know.
Mhm.
We know the movie is likely going to start with a kill scene, right?
Oh
We
yeah.
know that,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
didn't really see the killing happen this time. So I think it's so almost like a foreshadowing thing. And what Don is saying is we see these trailers and we start thinking about that. We start having expectations, right?
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily go into this time with the expectations. So I think to me it's kind of he's like heading to retirement. You know what I mean? That's what I see, right? That's kind of related to what I want to get to, like
Mhm.
Phil. he's heading to retirement,
Mhm.
and so what do you see after these bodies sprayed all over the place, right? And it was horrible. It was like not only was it like chilling, it was disgusting, right? It was horrible,
It
and
was
I
like a
think
horror movie.
I
exactly.
I was going to say that
I saw something.
Denzel.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Los. I'm sorry.
No, I saw something where we could have called it the brutalizer, right?
Yes, that is so true.
Right.
Yes.
But I think at the end we see him. I think he was sitting in a chair, like he was
Yes.
sitting down after he was tired.
Wiping his hands. He
He
was
was
sitting down
tired.
wiping his hands with a
Exactly.
cloth, like, getting the blood out of his wedding ring.
Right. He got more than it took more than 29 seconds to do all of that.
Oh,
So
yes.
But
so I think
for sure,
he's just getting older and he's kind of, in my
exactly.
opinion, growing out of that because he's starting to, he's killed enough and scratched that itch that
Yeah.
he had in episode 1 and 2.
Yes. But you know what I what but to come back to the fight scenes, I really wasn't expecting, because in the other 2 movies, it didn't start with a fight
No,
scene,
it
if you
didn't.
go back and think about it.
Oh, it's
So I
true.
thought it was unique for Antoine Fuqua to do this as a fight scene, right?
I
So
think
to
I
to
think
open it
part two
up.
started
Mhm.
with a fight scene, though, sure. I
Did
think
it?
It was a
Yeah,
train.
he
They were
was on a train.
on the
It was a
train.
train.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. He was saving the little girl. I totally forgot about that. You're right. So I guess you're right. I guess he progressed. He went
Well,
to beating up the people on the train to just pure horror.
well, when you think about it like this too, I think it makes sense to do that. This is what makes these movies great, and I'm sure
Mhm.
Denzel has his hand in the script as well. Is
Mhm.
that where did part two end? We know he is a killer. He's a vigilante, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
what better way to start? It is a you get something different at the beginning of every movie,
Mhm.
and in this one, you just see the aftermath because he's still been on a rampage. So
Yes.
I think it was fitting.
And I loved how at the end we got what we uh always like with the watch,
Yeah.
because he
That's
speaks
right.
because when they take the camera and they're traveling through all of this brutal killing, right? And then they come around the corner and he's sitting there, the guy's holding the gun, and he's wiping his hands and cleaning his ring.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, how is he going to get out of this? I know he's going to get out of it, but how is it going to happen?
Yeah.
And then he goes to that watch and he's like, he tells, what he's going to do, like he always does. He tells what he's going to do. And then he goes to that watch. I'm like, oh Lord, it's getting ready to happen. So no, that was amazing to me. I was just taken aback. I was like, wow, okay, Antoine, you stepping it up. I got you. I got you. So,
Was
okay.
the
Mhm.
was the beginning scene that scene, is that when he gave the 9 second quote?
Yeah, I think it was it the 9-second quote there. I think it was. I think it was. I think it
Okay,
was
yeah,
that scene because he kind of talks about how I remember him talking about how this young man doesn't know it, but
But he's gonna,
he
yeah.
doesn't have enough time. But this is what I'm getting ready to do to him. And his family. He says something about his family is uh is
right.
going to miss him or something. I'm sorry to take him away from his family, and this one over here is going to do something. I
Wow.
was like,
He
this is
said, yeah,
terrible.
he said he got the gun pointed here. You don't. He doesn't know when he pulls the trigger, it's going to do this.
Yes,
Got
yes.
9 seconds. I'm gonna give you 9 seconds to determine your fate.
Oh, yes! That's
Amazing.
what he said. Yes, that's what it was. That's a great memory, Reggie, because that is exactly what it was.
9 seconds.
9 seconds. Wow. Wow, it's amazing. So, yeah, and there's other action scenes that, of course, when we get to I kinda look at 3 in all of the Equalizer movies, I've kinda said there's 3 acts of action, right? You have the opening or the action that is the catalyst to open the scene, and then, all the little actions in between, and then the big action at the end.
Mhm.
So, I think in the beginning, they showed you how they didn't show you how he did all of that brutal fighting, but in the end, did you kind of look at how they did show you, okay, it was just as brutal in the
Oh
end
yeah,
to me.
Yeah.
And so,
absolutely.
but this time you saw him do the brutal stuff. The
Yeah.
first time you didn't. It was just interesting. I was just kind of thinking about it, how Antoine Fuqua, the director, um, kind of planned it out because that's his style. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But did you all have any other action-filled action scenes that kind of stuck out to you? Either one of you, whoever wants to say another action scene.
For me, it was the
Mhm.
one where they were in the restaurant,
Mhm. Oh my
with
gosh.
with I was so shocked. I was thinking, okay, this guy's in the restaurant and he's just sitting here and he's just watching them from across the table. What can happen in a restaurant? Oh, is he going to really do all these things? And then for him to, I wasn't expecting him to go outside and meet the guys outside in the parking lot.
Right. Right.
So it's like the unspoken. I'm in the restaurant. I'm telling you that you have this amount of time to do this. And if you don't do this, then this is going to happen. And then you go out, the guy goes outside thinking, okay, I did my thing. I'm going to come back for this guy. And the whole time, Denzel Washington is probably thinking in his mind, yeah, if I let him go, he's going to keep coming back.
Mhm.
And, he had to end that.
Mhm.
And that was so gruesome.
Yes,
Like,
it was scary. Like I think you said, like a horror film. I think I never jumped in a Denzel movie before. I jumped when the car comes down the hill and smashes the guy up.
yes.
I was like, oh,
Where did that come from?
what happened?
Right.
But yeah, I think that's going to be most of our highlights because of that conversation in the restaurant.
Yeah.
It's just so cool and so calm, and then the firestorm comes right behind it. So
Mhm.
what I appreciate, and this kind of goes back to what we said earlier. Again, what Fuqua does is he goes from unpredictable, right? Because early the movie starts and we see a scene where, everybody, all the work has been done by Robert McCall, and
Mhm.
then he progressively makes it more horrible.
Yeah.
Those little horror in the middle there, and in the end was just, just kind of, again, more disgusting than the first scene.
Oh,
But you got to see him do it this time.
yeah.
That was what was
And
so
you get to
crazy.
see him do it like,
It was crazy. So no, yeah, I just thought those scenes were pretty great. So now I wanted to kind of transition into age and vulnerability, because Denzel has aged during this
Yes.
movie. So I thought it was really interesting how how the choreography of the action scenes did you all get the impression that the choreography was kind of set in a way that helped a person who was older opposed to someone who was younger? What are your thoughts, Reggie?
Absolutely. I mean, I think
Mhm,
uh, it, it's real life. I mean, I think it's real life for Denzel. I think Denzel's
mhm,
pushing 70, if not 70 right now.
mhm,
But
mhm.
it was the flow of the sequels prior to this to wrap up the movie. It would have been crazy if Denzel is out there looking like Ethan Hawke in Mission Impossible or something.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm,
think this was it. This was perfect for Robert McCall to
mhm.
ride off into the sunlight. Um,
Yes.
um, and do it gracefully, if you will. Gracefully, like gracefully, if he's killing a bunch of people, he's doing it
Right.
gracefully though. It's kind of crazy, but
Mhm,
I think it
mhm.
was ideal for that because it matched his age. It wasn't over the top. Granted, the killings was over the top, but the way he did them, it wasn't like it was someone half his age. So I loved it.
Yes.
It was perfect for me.
Yeah, I thought so too. Any thoughts, Carlos, on his
uh,
age and vulnerability?
well, yeah, it's Denzel. We know he's skilled, right?
Mhm,
He's very skilled. He's been working on his masterpieces, in my opinion.
mhm,
And I keep
mhm.
saying Denzel. We got to call him Robert McCall. We know
Robert
Oh,
McCall,
McCall,
that's
right?
true. You're
right?
right. We have to call him Robert
We
McCall
got to
because
put him
that's the
in
role we're
character.
talking about.
We
Yeah,
need to
you're
put him in
right.
character. But
Mhm,
anyway,
mhm, mhm,
yes, he's showing his age for sure, right?
mhm,
We can't
mhm,
deny that. He's showing his vulnerability. Going back to your title there, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but we get a chance to see him maybe hide that ring a little bit and start thinking about his future. Um, but in the scenes, where he's actually doing his killing or creating his masterpieces, it takes some time, and that's why we're seeing some of the scenes go a little bit longer when it comes to the killing of the bad guy. So it's
mhm.
just fitting. It's fitting for the movie series.
Yeah. So it takes me back to though we didn't talk about in the first action scene what caused him to be able to um end up in that little town in Sicily, right?
Mhm,
So that's something that takes me back to his vulnerability because he comes out of that house and the most unexpected thing happens when he sees the little boy, the son of one of the people he killed, and he's like, "Stay in the car," and he walks away not thinking that that little boy is gonna shoot him because he
mhm,
gets hurt, and
mhm,
that's how he ends up in that town. That showed me his vulnerability because he's so wise in thinking through
mhm,
how he protects himself,
mhm.
but who would have thought a child would have hurt him? But,
Yeah.
Good point.
that was
Good point.
kinda interesting.
Yep.
So
I thought about
mhm, go ahead, sorry. Mhm.
like I said, I thought about when that happened. I don't know why I thought about this, but I thought about Scarface. No women, no kids. So
Oh,
that was the
yes.
vulnerability that this kid is not going to do anything to me.
Yeah.
Um, so I can walk away with no harm.
Yeah.
But hey,
Yes.
you see what happened. So,
Yeah,
but he
he
still
said,
didn't
"You."
do anything to him.
No, because he lived, but, he's
Right,
like, "You killed my daddy, Imma have to take you out."
Yeah.
But he
right.
lived, he lived. I thought that was kinda interesting. So I wanted to, before I was going to go to a certain part, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to come back to it. So let's talk about the relationships that he builds. So he built, he builds relationships all along the way. And it's so interesting how he can just draw people in. Um, and I think I was trying to remember what scene takes us into this. What I wanted to tell you all was the transition, that was something that's in every movie. And it was a quote, and I was looking for it in this movie, and it's, "What do you see when you look at me?" He says that quote in
Yeah.
this movie, and I couldn't remember though if he said it to the doctor who saved him, or and I feel like that's where he said it, but he
I think
could
it
have
was the doctor.
was it, do you remember? Is that, do you all feel the same? There
Yeah,
was
it
the
was,
doctor.
yes.
Definitely
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, and so that was, I just thought that that was interesting. I was looking for something that Antoine was going to connect all three movies, and that was the only thing that I could really see
Wow.
that was in there. But it was a poignant quote, because that's something that touches, that's something that everyone remembers. What do you
Mhm.
see when you look at me?
Yeah.
So, but in speaking about that and building relationships, he built this relationship with the doctor and the police officer. It's like, how does he build these relationships and people just want to help him? Because they took a stranger and just saved his life.
Mhm.
And he says that when he asked him that question, but there was another question. Does everybody remember the question that the doctor
Yeah.
asked him? What was the
Are
other
you good or
question?
bad? He said, "Are you
Yes.
good?
Are
Are
you
you a good
good or
guy or bad guy?"
bad?
Yeah.
Yes. And he said he didn't know. And that's
Mhm.
when the doctor said that, what, that in the end, he talks to him about how that's why he knew he was a good man, because
Yeah.
he said he didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, so he builds the relationships with the doctor, and then you have the police officer and his family. But what about how he built the relationship with the police officer and how Antoine transitioned? Did you all see, or what did you think about how he transitioned Denzel wanting to jump in and to help again? Do you
Mm.
all remember what scene kind of pulled him into that?
For me, it was the one where not Denzel, when he went back to when he went to the doctor's home and the police officer was there and he was beat up, and he asked what happened, um,
Mm.
and the doctor said, he fell.
Yep.
And in that instant, he knew that it wasn't just a fall. Like there's something going on fishy here. So I need to see what's going on, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, because if you look back, I think we can tell from the how that relationship was built immediately between him and the doctor. I think someone, maybe, I don't even know if Denzel asked him. Someone asked the doctor what happened to Denzel, and the
And
doctor
he
basically
fell.
said he fell.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he
I
said
think it
he
was a
fell.
police officer asked him what happened, and he said he fell.
He
Yeah.
fell, exactly. So I think that doctor obviously has relationships with the entire, obviously all the townspeople,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
including the bad guys.
Yes.
He's
Mm-hmm.
not, what's the word, client doctor of privilege or whatever. He can't tell
Mm-hmm.
you what everything, what everybody's situation is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the doctor picked that up from Denzel immediately. Like, if you're getting shot wherever he got shot, in the side or the back, the kidney, whatever you want to call it, for sure, this guy is,
He's
that wasn't an accident.
No.
Right? You
But I
know
think
for sure that he might be a bad guy, but you don't know the other side of him. And it was cool, like you said, with the relationships, to see that develop throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
And there's
I think the
oh, sorry,
doctor
go
as
ahead.
well.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor as well. He knew that city. He knew the
Mm-hmm.
city was being ran by the mafia. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you're getting shot in the back. You are an American citizen in Italy.
Yeah.
Chances are it's not an accident or random.
Yeah.
Yeah. A
So
black
something.
man,
So a
in
black
Italy.
man at that. Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
know.
So
That's
hence, and by the way, his name is Robert, not Denzel. Those.
Robert.
oh,
Yeah.
that's right. His Robert.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
Robert
and you know
McCall.
what? And another thing that kind of stood out to me in regards to relationship, when he asked the doctor, "Where am I?" and the
Hmm.
doctor said, "You're where you're supposed to be."
Hmm.
Yes.
Man,
You are
Donna saw
so
this movie
right.
more than
I
one
was going
time,
to say
didn't
I
I
didn't know.
only saw it
I was going
one
to say the same
time.
thing. I think Donna's likes it more than what she's leading on to, Los. I think.
I know.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, now that you sit back and you talk
We
about
already switched
things
her
in the
over,
movie.
Reg.
We
We
switched
turned
her
her
over.
over.
We turned
no,
her
no,
over.
that was easy work, Los.
It was not hard
Easy
at
work.
all.
So no. And then what about, I think you were kind of alluding to this, Carlos, when about the wedding ring, the relationship that he builds with the young lady in the restaurant. I think
Mhm,
she owns that restaurant, and she kind of pulls him out of his shell.
mhm.
And I thought that was real. I really thought, I was like, oh, are they going to get together? I thought we were going to have a love scene, but there was nothing like that. But
I'm
still, it
glad they
was
didn't do
really
that.
she was too young for him.
Okay.
No, I don't
So,
think she was too young, sure. I just that's not the equalizer.
Nah.
oh, that's
No.
true. That's not what he does. You're
We know
right.
he's a good guy, but and
Yeah.
we get to see him. Maybe he will build that relationship, obviously later
Yeah.
on. But
Mhm.
we didn't need to see the love scenes. It's
That's
not that
true.
kind of movie.
That's true. It wasn't that
Donna
kind of
would
movie.
Donna would hate it if that happened. Trust me.
Donna would have hated it.
Yes.
Uh, okay, I'm trying to think of what other well, we know the relationship that the other relationship that was being built was the one with Dakota Fanning's role.
Mhm.
And I
Emma.
can't, what was her name in the movie?
Emma.
Emma.
Yeah, Emma.
And so that's something that I want to talk about in the legacy in the mentorship area. And we can actually transition to that about the legacy and the mentorship, because that was shocking to me. Just I wasn't connecting. I was like, how are they going to connect the two of them? So
Mhm.
did you all have a clue? Reggie, did you have a clue of what was going to come out in the end?
Not when they first when Emma first came into the movie. No, I didn't. But I believe I did figure it out before they acknowledged it in the movie. I was like, yeah, I think that's his friend's daughter. I forgot her name.
It's
Susan.
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 Hmm.
I mean, I think that's she's related to Susan. I bet you that's Susan's daughter. So, but that's a
Mhm.
little later in the film. Immediately, no, I didn't. I didn't see.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. I loved it when I figured it out. Though. I love that
Yes,
connection.
I loved it. What about you, Carlos?
No, sure. I didn't gather any of that doing that first time watching the movie. No,
Me neither.
I was. So if there was the one thing that I would say, if you want to call it bad about the movie, was when she was introduced. I think it was cool that he actually made a phone call to the CIA hotline. That's incredible. I didn't know that
Yeah.
really existed, but he did. Made a call to the CIA hotline, and she just happened to be the one to pick the phone up, right? So it was cool to see that relationship develop. We get to see a little bit of how some of the inner workings happen, because we never, other than Susan in prior movies, we didn't see Denzel interact with his former business partners, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So it's pretty cool to
Yeah,
see
we
that.
did.
Who?
Yeah, we did. The ones he off in part two.
No,
Oh
no, no.
It
yeah,
I
wasn't
mean,
positive
Pascal.
interaction.
behind the scenes of like the work. So Denzel was just kind of in the movies. He's doing things on his own. But before Equalizer, he was an inside operative, if you want to call it that. Um, so we got to see how some of that inner workings were done. But back to your original question, Cheryl, I had no idea who that girl was, and I wasn't sure I really wanted her to be there. To be honest with you, I didn't get it because they had the espionage going. I got a little confused. So I asked my wife at the end of the movie, I was like, did you understand all of the espionage and the spies and all that kind of stuff? What was going on with that? And she really didn't either. So that was my one thing that I had a problem with the movie.
Well, it all came together in the end
It did. It
when
did.
he he called her. Now we know why he called her, because he knew he had something
Yeah.
big.
Mhm.
Once I kind of learned that he started to go there for the gentleman in Boston to go
Mhm.
get his retirement money back, because it was
Yes.
stolen by these people at the winery, then it all started to come together for me. So
Okay.
he brought the CIA in because he knew that they would be able to get resolution to whatever was happening. What
Mhm.
Mhm.
I didn't connect though until, I connected it later when they said it, but I wasn't thinking about it when they were during the movie, was about the terrorism.
Right.
that they were actually, the mafia was supporting terrorists, and that was really the underlying bigger issue of what was causing um problems for Italy in general, because
Hmm.
I think they blew up the train station or something in
Hmm.
Italy, and
Hmm.
it was all because the mafia funded and allowed them to bring in the drugs, and they got the money. They sent
Yeah.
these drugs to the mafia so they could get the money that they needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I get what you're saying, but I did kind of see it in the end how it all tied together,
Hmm.
and I was touched at the fact that I should have known it, just from because in each movie Susan had a part in each movie, so
Yes.
that was her part in this movie, even though she wasn't alive.
Yeah.
So no, I thought it was ingenious. So, and I just loved him and Dakota Fanning being back together. That was kind of cool to see her as an adult. So, yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
So let's move to uh, m- themes and symbolism. What other themes or symbolism did you all see in the movie, besides what I've already talked about?
Um, the one that I saw, the never ending tea bag, the teacup. Um, and then when she called them out on the tea, like, this is for old women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Like,
right. I forgot about that.
tea, you're a man. Like, you should be drinking something else, like not a cup of tea.
Mhm. You're right, you're right. I forgot about the tea. I was trying to think. I know that, uh, of course, his killing and his wanting to help people. I think the symbolism of him seeing people who are in trouble, like, I felt like he has this sense of, just knowing when to be around at the right time, like the gentleman who was in the market that owned the fish store, and
Yeah.
how he just stood there. That was his thing. He always saw and just could feel when something wasn't going right with someone, and he
Mhm.
always found a way to fix it. But that's who he was. That was his role. That's what the equalizer does. He equalizes. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Um, what about the moral code, McCall's moral code? Do you think? What are your thoughts? I have some thoughts on his moral code. What are you all's thoughts? I'll start with you, Reggie.
Um, I think one of the biggest thing I take away was he doesn't like bullies, so he's going to bully
Hmm.
the bullies. So I think in every other episode, there was always someone taking advantage
Hmm.
of the little person, if you will.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
he felt he not that he always wanted to be, but he felt like the Godfather 3. Every time I get out, you keep bringing me back in,
Yeah.
type of mindset. So I
Hmm.
think he wanted to not wanted to, but he ended up being uh, the bully of the bullies. So
Hmm.
that's what
Hmm.
I saw, and I think that was his way of giving back. And in this movie, I think he just that was his resting place, if you will, and
Hmm.
his goal was to go there, get this individual's money back. And I don't know if he knew he was going to like it there as much, but I think
Yeah.
as the movie went on, he wanted to stay, and I think
Hmm.
he wanted to get to that point, but he had to finish this first.
Yeah.
Yes, he had to protect the town. He saw that they were in
Yep.
trouble. What are your thoughts, Donna?
I think that it's just like Reggie said, it's just he wants to, like, for me it's like he's wanting to combat people from, taking advantage of people, and uh, taking people's kindness for weakness, because that's pretty much what
Hmm.
what people were doing, taking money, from people who were just trying to make an honest living.
Hmm.
And it seems like that was happening, through a lot of some of the things that he was doing with all of the equalizers, one and two, and this one, mainly it's a small town that was just, trying to make it for themselves. And these thugs were going through and just stripping money away from them to build something that they wanted to build, that was going to
Yes.
fund what
Hmm.
their purpose was.
Hmm.
And he was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
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 What about you, Carlos?
So moral code, like his obviously his is distorted a bit, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, because he is, as I said before, a vigilante. Um,
Mhm.
but I think part of morals is understanding fear, and
Mhm.
I think it's amazing because he doesn't have any. Like he literally, just has calm conversations with world renowned or definitely nationwide renowned killers, mafia
Mhm.
in this instance,
Mhm.
and he tries. He's trying to not be who he is. He's
Mhm.
trying hard not to do that. I think Reggie said that. Um, so part of the moral code I think is just fearlessness, and that's a part of him. That's a part of all of us sometimes.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
he turned himself in. He's in the middle of the town square or the town circle,
Mhm.
and he comes out from hiding and said, "Here I am. Do
Mhm.
something about it." So like, he
Mhm.
always giving himself a chance to put himself in harm's way, but that the harm never comes, and it ends up getting reversed. So again, that goes back to the distortion of his own moral code, which is hard. I think it's hard for me to understand because we don't think that way.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, he's a good guy. The doctor says, "Are you a good man or a bad man?" And I think at the end of the day, he's a good man,
He
and
is a good man.
yeah, he
Mhm.
finally he
Mhm.
finally was able to, like Reggie said, find community and find home.
Yes. And I agree. I When I think of his moral code, I always think about how he felt about his wife. You know how in the second movie, I think he always struggled that he wasn't living his life the way she felt he should live it after she passed.
Mhm.
But then it always goes. I always take it back, Carlos, to that first movie, with that book, the Old Man and the Sea, where he says you got to be who you are in this world.
Yep.
And I think he's just at peace with that now.
Hmm.
He's like, I know who I am, and that's, as much as I love my wife, and I'm always going to try to respect her. I'm always going to do the best I can. This
Hmm.
is who I am. This is how
Yeah.
I do it.
Yeah.
So, and I think he's at peace. I looked at it as him being at peace with that now, and
Hmm.
him, cleaning up a place where he can have peace, and
Hmm.
hopefully that he could keep peace in the new town that seemed like it was going to be his home.
Yep.
So, okay, so let's talk about tying up loose ends. So, in tying up loose ends, that's where I was talking about, Carlos, when I said, when you were talking about kind of tying it all together,
Yeah.
where I just was in the end when I found out what the money was for,
Hmm.
just seeing how they, Dakota Fanning took the money back to the family, and they were just so shocked. I'm like, oh, all of this happened for this one family.
Hmm.
All of this killing, when you think about it, all of this killing happened
Ooh.
for this one family. And if that wasn't triggered, then maybe all of that other carnage wouldn't have happened. It still would have been bad things that happened because those people were bad and they were doing things. And we didn't talk about it, but how about that scene when they threw the woman's father out the window? You all remember that? That was terrifying for me when with the gentleman who was in the wheelchair and they
Yeah.
threw him out the window.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
It's
was
like,
horrible.
that was horrible. But, just kind of, but going back to tying out loose ends, it just hit me. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that one, that, I thought that that was a thing that really kind of tied it up for me. And knowing that he was gonna at the end of the movie where they had the soccer game and he just seemed so happy because he was home. What are you all's thoughts? Am I missing anything that you all found that was kind of tying up loose ends?
I have a question.
Hmm.
I think still on the same topic. I think Cheryl,
Hmm.
did do we know if Denzel knew that Dakota Fanning, Emma, was Susan's daughter?
Oh yeah, he definitely
Absolutely,
Yeah,
did.
absolutely,
yeah,
He
because
So
absolutely knew
absolutely.
she was.
there go another one, Cheryl. Whew, right over my head. I didn't know.
Yeah, because that's why he called her. Because she, remember in the movie, she kept saying, why me?
yeah.
Okay.
She kept
And,
saying,
Okay.
why me? And he
Okay.
says, you'll find out in
yeah.
time,
Okay. Okay.
hmm
All right.
Yeah, and
I
that's
could be
how she
wrong, but
found out. Hmm.
Didn't he say at some point your mother would be proud? I maybe missed something. I
At
think
the
he
end of
said
the
that.
At
movie,
the
he
end,
sends
yes.
her that
Right.
note. He sends her a note saying, "Your mother would be proud of you." Because in the end,
Right.
he got her to where her mother would really want her to be. Because
Yeah.
she started in the call center, but think about it. In the end, she had an office.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. Got
I think
promoted.
he was looking to get her promoted. He was, I think, always in his mind. He's like, "What do I do to give honor to my friend?" And I guess the best way he could do that was to take care of her daughter and get her to where he knew her mother would want her to be,
Yeah.
where she had the talent. He knew
Yeah.
she was talented. She had her mother's talent. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. But no, good point, Carlos. Yeah. That's how he definitely knew her and knew what he was doing. It was intentional, I
Oh yeah.
thought. Yeah. Hmm.
Come on, Los. That's Robert McCall. He knows everything he does is calculated.
You're right. You're right.
Uh, so this brings us to the future of the series. What do you all think? So we know he didn't die. We're excited that they didn't kill him off, and I'm so glad because that would have been awful. I don't think Antoine Fuqua would have. And as I think about it, he couldn't have done that. That would have so many people would have been upset. But what do you think? You think they're going to do another one, or is this the complete final?
I think there's going to be another one.
Oh,
Yeah, you can't end it
I,
at that. That little boy shot him, and then he lived to fight another day. Like he's gonna want justice for his grandfather, father. He's gonna want justice. And I think for me, I think there's gonna be more because he
Denzel
has.
gonna be 90 years old when that boy grow up. I mean, my bad, Robert McCall, not Denzel. Robert McCall.
Yeah, I thought it was the final chapter, but you're right, Donna. I think that's something to think about. Maybe, as you kind of think of things that could happen, you're right. I would think that little boy would want justice for what happened to his family, but or to his father. But yeah, I agree with Reggie too. He's so old. I don't think Denzel could do another. He could do the fight scenes like in his 70, 75 or 80. But what do you feel, Reggie and Carlos?
I, I would say there's definitely a possibility for another one.
Mhm.
Because you remember Robert gave Emma his black book with all his numbers or contacts in it. So
You're
they can
right.
springboard it off with her as the next equalizer. That's one path forward. I don't know that I want to see that, but that's a
yeah.
Yeah,
possibility.
yeah.
The other possibility, what I've heard was, because I think I also saw an interview when Antoine Fuqua was saying he was considering playing with AI to make
Mhm,
Denzel look younger and with
mhm.
this one, but I guess they went a different path, so that was a possibility. So they can go that far. And the other one is bringing Denzel's son into this as from a prequel standpoint, bring John David Washington and doing it. So,
Oh,
which I
that's
wouldn't
actually
mind
clever.
seeing
Yeah.
go back and to his CIA operative days and see how that unfolds, how he became who he is today. I like to see that.
Yeah. No, that's actually really a good point. God, great point, Reggie. What are your thoughts, Carlos?
Um, yeah, they left a few crumbs for us to think about extending the series, whether it's prequels or AI. I'm selfish, and I think it should stop. I think the man found what he's tying up loose ends. What did he's just he lost his wife. He's been doing this helping. Let's call it helping people in these movies, right?
Mhm,
Uh, to help alleviate his pain, right, of losing his wife.
mhm,
Um, Now we see him in this part three, and again he's approaching. He's older in age. He's older. You can see his vulnerability.
Yeah.
In other words, he's slipping, right?
Hmm.
mhm, mhm,
So I don't I wanted to end there. He found to me in this movie he found the peace that he was searching for.
Yeah.
mhm.
And I think we're gonna see obviously I don't think we're gonna see any more movies with Denzel, not even with AI.
Right.
We're gonna see him ride. Reggie said it. We're gonna see him ride off peacefully into the sunset. So
Yes.
selfishly, I don't want to see any other prequels, even though I love John David Washington. He's good. I love him in whatever he does. But selfishly, let it stop.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree. I love John David Washington too, because he's his daddy's son. But
Exactly.
I but I just think as certain movies, they remake movies now, and I just feel like some
Enough.
that just need to be left alone.
Yeah.
Like if they come out and say they're going to do another Godfather, I'm not going to be
Oh
happy.
my Lord.
Yeah,
They have
right.
to
But
there's
again,
certain things they can't do over,
Yeah.
right?
we've seen
So
enough. Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, we love to keep seeing like if he was 20 and he did one in his 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, I'm
Yeah.
good with that.
yeah,
But because you can continue that story. But to me, the way this one ended, I think they did it well in the fact that we get to see that man at peace and at home, and he found his community where he can put all of that stuff that's happened in the past behind him.
absolutely.
Hey, sure, not to take this off of the Equalizer, but
Mhm.
because you're talking about what you don't want to see and what you want to see. So I don't know if you're aware, but Denzel's next project is Gladiator 2.
I know, I saw that. I saw that by Ridley Scott, right? I think Ridley Scott
Yeah,
is doing he did the first one, so he's doing the
right,
sequel. That's gonna
right.
be interesting. When I saw it, I was
I
like,
don't know
"Gosh,
about that one.
yeah, how's he gonna be out there with the gladiator suit on?"
Yeah.
Maybe he's gonna be someone who has on all the robes and everything. I don't know.
Maybe.
He's gonna be the good king, or not the not
I need
not
to
one
make
of
him a
the
bad
guys
guy.
fighting in the ring.
No,
I
he's
can
not doing
see
that.
him fighting in the ring,
Oh
but
no.
we shall see. It's gonna be interesting, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, good point, Reggie. Thank you for bringing that up. So I thought I would close us out with uh about the bad guys, right? So I have a favorite of the villains from each of the movies, but before
Mm.
I say my favorite, out of all three movies, who is your favorite villain? I'll start with you, Reggie.
Ooh.
I'm terrible with
Oh,
names.
Go.
yeah.
By far, it's the guy in the first one.
Okay.
Um, the guy I forgot where he
Teddy.
came from. The
Teddy.
Teddy,
Teddy.
Eddie.
Mhm.
absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Absolutely. And rank him. Uh, yeah. I mean, thi- in this one, the villain didn't have a big part to me,
No.
Mhm.
other to
No.
closer to the
Mhm.
end.
Mhm.
Um, I guess his nephew or brother, Marco,
Mhm.
was the primary villain ultimately in this one. Who had a rough ending to say the least.
Yeah.
He went out with a bang. Um, but yeah, I mean, my favorite villain I would say is Teddy.
What about you, Carlos?
Um,
Right.
I like we talked about sort of ranking the movies before. I'll do now. I've been watching Equalizer one a lot because it's on TV. So, but I was before that. It was always two. So I'm still kind of stuck on two. And it's a group of them, obviously, but it's his former co-workers, those guys.
Yeah.
And basically his I think his name was Dave, the one he met up with in the park in part two.
Mhm.
Um, I think those guys were his, to me, the best villains for me because they were doing their dirt in the dark, right? The same, and
Mhm.
they had the same skill Denzel taught them, right? Those were his
Mhm.
protégés essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. He was their
Uh,
mentor. Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
um, and I just like I said, I remember the scene when he tells them all that he's just disappointed he can't kill him twice. That's
Mhm.
I'm stuck
I
with that.
love that. I went back and watched that too, Carlos. I went back and watched it, and you are so right.
I just can't. I love that scene, so I get chills on that. I'm getting chills on that one now. So I'm gonna go with his former team.
Okay. What about you, Donna?
I haven't seen Equalizer 1 and 2 in a long time.
Oh, wow.
So I'll have
Okay.
to go
Okay.
back and watch them so that I'm not biased, um, and I'm able to have more of a clear answer. Because
Okay, that's
yeah,
fair. That's fair.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go with Reggie. Teddy is my favorite. I thought Teddy was so conniving. He was just, I mean, you can't get past Teddy, and he just was
Ruthless.
ruthless. And I just thought that it was the first movie. It was the first time we were experiencing Robert McCall. So
Mhm.
I just thought the whole dynamic between the two of them, and that last scene when he kills Teddy, and just the whole dynamic between the two of them. That I always remember the scene on the stairs where he's like, "Okay, officer, you're not going to um give me your name or number or your card," and because it's just like they had this whole dialogue with each other,
Yeah,
this connection.
yeah.
I love the quotes. That's where that was the first time that they said, "What do you see when you look at me?"
Mhm,
Because Teddy
Mhm.
says that first, and
mhm.
he says that quote first, and then Denzel says, "The real question is, what do you see when you look at me?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's right.
That gives me chills. That
And
I just
Cheryl,
love that scene. Yeah. Mhm.
to piggyback off of that scene you talk about in the hallway, that
Mhm.
gives you the feeling of the Robert De Niro Al Pacino scene in Heat.
There you
Yes,
go.
It gives you that kind
yes,
of feel.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
But I
It's
wouldn't
so
notice too though.
amazing. Mhm.
It's scenes. I mean, to rank the movies is one thing, but I like more some. I may like a scene that's in part three more than something that was in part one. For example, the opening scene in part three, and today when they finally get to him, and he's leaned over. They got the light shining down on him. The cinematic excellence of that, and he was wiping his hands. That was amazing. That's a brilliant scene.
It was
Chills.
brilliant, brilliant. Yes, it was. Antoine, he gets all the props on that one. So no.
Absolutely.
And I watched some other reviews on this before we did this recap, and one of the things that one of the other reviewers said was that Antoine Fuqua is an underrated director. They
Mhm.
don't really give him his props. He's done so much, and I just think I'm hoping that people will continue to recognize him for the great work that he does.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Any other thoughts before we close out on the Equalizer?
What do y'all have any other quotes that you all liked? I have
Um,
one.
Oh, from this movie, I don't have any other from this movie. What is your quote?
What was it? He said, I guess he was talking to Marco when they was in a restaurant, and Denzel said something to, Robert said something to Marco, and Marco said, "You warn? Is that a warning?" He said, "No, that's a What did he say? How did he say it? He
Was
said,
it a
he said,
promise or
I'm prepared. He said, "Is that a warning?" He said, "No, I'm preparing you." He said, "Are you warning me?" "No, I'm preparing you."
Wow.
Amazing. That's
Wow.
what that's when he put him in a wrist lock or what have you.
I know
Amazing.
that's when he took his hand and he snaps it back,
Yes,
and he talks to him about he's like, "Right now I have my finger on this nerve."
he counting up.
And as I press, this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yep.
love about him. He's always giving the direction. He's always
Yeah.
explaining. So you don't have to guess. You know exactly what is getting ready to happen to you. That
Mhm.
happens in every movie, if you think
Yep.
about it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I guess you could say you could have a favorite in each one, but you're right.
Yep.
This is where we don't have the advantage, Reggie, like Carlos and I did with one and two, was that
Right.
we could
Yeah.
watch the movies over and
Yep.
over and over,
Yeah.
and I've actually only seen it once, and so
Yeah.
I need to see it again, and believe me, next time I'm going to be taking more notes so
Yeah.
I can
Absolutely.
kind of pinpoint those things. But yeah, any other thoughts or any other quotes that the rest of you remember?
Um, I think there was one that I was remembering about some. I don't remember who it was that said that. Um, Something about the towns, and each town has one. It's the mafia. It's like cancer. There's no cure.
Mm.
Oh
Yes.
yes,
Mm.
yes. I feel like that happened on the beach.
I don't
When
remember
they were
what
in
it
the
was.
water. But yeah, you're right. Gosh, you guys
Mhm.
have good memories. I cannot remember that stuff. That's my age. Yeah, I can't remember that. Great memories.
It's
So
Donna.
no.
What up?
Do you know who said that,
I
Donna?
don't remember who it was.
That sounds. I don't know who said it, but I know they were
Um,
saying it to McCall.
I think it
Was it
was.
the
I think
doctor?
it
It
was
might have been the doctor.
Enzo.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, that's what it
Enzo.
was. Yeah.
Enzo.
Enzo,
Enzo,
was
the
that the
doctor.
police officer or
Yeah,
the doctor? Okay.
Doc.
No,
Okay.
Enzo
Enzo
was
was
the
a doctor.
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 Okay.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
was
No.
another scene I asked Los after I saw it.
Mhm.
Um, what was Denzel singing, Los? Towards the end, it was something about
he was
when he
singing
was
a gospel song.
right.
I know it was the blood. Like we sang that in church so much. That's only
Yeah.
sure. Like I said, I need to hear things over and over again to
Yeah,
remember. And Angelique and I started singing it in the
in
in the
the
theater.
theater.
After I figured out what it was, I looked at Leak. I said, "We know this song, right? We sing it in church."
So,
So yeah, I
so
think it was.
Robert McCall was singing a gospel song while he was
Oh, what
killing
was
people.
he singing?
Yeah, I know it was the
Wow.
blood. That's the name of
You
the
know what?
gospel.
He was in the house, in the mansion when he was killing the
Yeah,
people.
I know it was the
Oh my
blood.
gosh.
First when I was
Oh
lost, now I'm
wow.
found. I know it was the blood. Something like that.
Wow. That was great. I totally
Yeah.
I love that. For bringing these topics up, Reggie, because I totally forgot about these pieces.
Yeah, I definitely asked Los. You see the movie? I said, yeah. I said, what was that he was singing when he was killing those people? Amazing.
He's singing a gospel song. Oh my gosh.
And listen, and think about it, Cheryl. That you know what you should have brought that up earlier with symbolism, right?
Yeah, that's
Because
true. That's great with symbolism.
he's killing, and I know it was the blood, and obviously in church in the gospel world, I know it was the blood. That's healing, right?
Yeah.
That's healing.
Yeah.
That's
The blood of
true. So
Jesus is healing.
he's healing himself. He's healing the town by taking out
The
these
scum.
terrible people, these thugs. He's
Uh,
healing the town.
Cheryl,
When
we
you
got to
think
see the
about
movie
it,
more. I need
I'm
to
gonna
see
have to
this
go see
more
it
two
again.
more
Yeah.
times. We can come back and do this again.
We'll come back and do it again after we'll do a recap to the recap.
We're gonna do a recapitulation of the recap.
It should be coming
I
on
love it.
demand real soon.
Oh,
I
okay.
hope so.
Okay.
What would they call it? Digital or something where you
Yeah,
could
yeah.
say it's
Amazon
digital. Yeah.
Prime
Yeah.
or pay per view
So
or
when
something
we
like
do
that. Yeah, it
that,
should be coming soon.
we'll regroup after we've
Okay.
seen it about 5 times.
There we go. Take my notes, sure. I need notes.
Ah, I know. Well, I thank you all so much. I appreciate you just taking the time to doing this recap with me, us all of us Denzel Washington fans, and it sounds like we brought Donna back over
I'm gonna
to
say,
loving the
Donna, where are you
movie.
now, Donna?
That's a great. We
I,
got it. That's how
like
you
I
close.
said, I've always been a Denzel Washington fan. I will continue to be a Denzel Washington fan. It was just this movie just kind of caught me off guard. I was super excited, and I just wanted to go see it like right when it came out.
Yeah.
And then it was a shock for me. So now it's just like, okay, now listening and tearing the movie apart and just kind of getting the symbolism behind all the things that were happening in it. It just kind of makes me look at it. Okay, like yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it
We
was
got
good.
her, Los. We
Yes.
got
Yeah.
her, Los.
That's why I didn't pick on her earlier, Reg. I knew it would turn real fast because we just have
I started
expectations.
to, but I said, let me
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, like again, I thank you all so much. And I just thank the Hot Nerd Network for just letting us do this on the network. And remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and stay tuned for future video recaps on the network. And until next time, this is Hot Nerd Cheryl and her guests signing off. Stay
All right.
safe and stay just.